we my sister is organising a surprise COVID safe, very few people due to lockdown, what's going on in New Zealand. But I got in touch with old friends, new friends, rallies and all that, and asked them all for photos. So I've made a slideshow presentation. And then last weekend, my brother came over with his family and we went down to the showgrounds here in Bangalore, stood in the middle of the oval, and he put his drone up and it circled around us and went up. And we were all waving to it. So that was the whole end of the presentation, and it's so beautiful.
That is amazing. What a beautiful thing to be able to do. Like, I mean, what a gift that is. I mean, I know it's tragic that you can't be there, but that's such a beautiful gift that you can watch and have, and with all the family, it's such a beautiful thing to do. I love that.
It's been really fun working on it. It's been a couple of months actually in the pipeline. And of course,
I can imagine.
There I am. It's actually tomorrow, the event, and I was finishing it in the wee smalls this morning. So it's been a big one. Anyway,
just in time training, that's the thing.
Yes, one of my exciting things this week, though, Jenny, was I took half a day off on Wednesday to head off to Queensland. It felt like going to another country. We were allowed over the border. The border crossing, normally it takes us to get to Robina less than an hour, and it took us 2.5 hours with the border crossing. But took my daughter and my to get my daughter's computer fixed and just breathe some different air, and it was really exciting. We came back feeling quite rejuvenated. It's amazing how a little bit of freedom to move around can make quite a difference.
I completely agree. My sisters came up on Wednesday as well to spend a week with her child, my niece, and they haven't seen each other for months and months and months, and so they're very excited to be able to spend a week together and hang out, and because we just haven't had that connection, so we're looking forward to Christmas for that exact reason.
Oh, fantastic. And you had a birthday since I last saw you, Jenny. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I did. Thank you very much. I had a very, very good birthday on Saturday.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. I do love a birthday. And sometimes when they're near Christmas, they cannot get as much attention as they need. So I'm glad that you had a really good one.
I got spoiled to see my partner. I do birthday weeks for my family, and it was the first time someone had done a birthday week for me. So my partner spoiled me all week with lovely, beautiful Earl Grey teas from the tea centre and a beautiful little strainer, and we had dinner and flowers, and it was just, I was very spoiled for a week. It was lovely.
Oh, wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. That's fantastic. So,
Thank
Jenny,
you. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so our topic of the week is what we've learned from 2021. And it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because we thought, well, I know I'm just not speaking just for myself or my team or my friends or my family. I'm sure it's for everybody, that we thought that it would kind of all be over at the end of last year. We'd all done a really big year. It had been a lot of adjustments, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of challenges. So we went into 2021 thinking, wow, didn't we do well? And, we've learned a lot. Off we move forward now. And of course, that didn't happen. It became even more problematic at times, not so much for you there in Queensland, but certainly in New South Wales and in Victoria. And, obviously, WA locking themselves away from everyone. And, it was so interesting how divided our country became, not just by states, and all of a sudden it just felt like we were all living in different countries, but also the pro-vax, the anti-vax, that's when all the demonstrations started happening. And so it's been a very interesting year for everyone, not even just in a business sense, just for us all to navigate what's going on. And of course, being kept away from people that we want to be near, and being unable to travel, not just interstate, but obviously overseas and things. So it's been a really, really fascinating one. And I felt really proud along the way with how I've just got on with it and kept going. And it was only a couple of weeks ago after my daughter's formal that it really hit me how hard it really has been. And I think it's because she's been finishing up her schooling and having her last final exams, and it just feels like it's been really tough. But luckily, that didn't hit me till it was all done. So we just kept pushing through and staying positive right up till really that moment. But what about for you, Jenni? How do you feel? Do you feel like now you're just absolutely wiped out, or what's happening for you?
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you. I think my reflection of the year is that it's certainly been a year of division in so many ways, where people have there's kind of been a taking sides year, which is something that we haven't seen for a very, very long time, where our emotion and the extremist views have really come to life, because most people tend to kind of float around in quite moderate responses. They're not extreme on either end of any scale. Yet what we've seen this year is really kind of division around how you should work, or what we should be allowed to do, and our rights and obligations, even as an employee, as an employer, as a member of society. I think that real division has been hard for a lot of people. That separation has been incredibly hard for a lot of people. I think for me, my reflection is very much about, I think May, June this year, I kind of just decided to surrender to it all, to be honest. And I just kind of thought, well, this is the world we live in. There are certain things that I'm able to control in my life and the influence that I have, and there are certain things that I can't. And so I need to surrender to that kind of the stuff that I can't manage and can't control, because if I don't do that, then I am going to be in this kind of state of constant overwhelm and constant, what am I going to do? So I'm moving to this space of saying, whatever happens, happens. We'll just answer, respond to what that is at that moment, and then move on and stop kind of creating, or for me at least, in our family, we didn't create any kind of drama around the changes. It just was. And by managing it that way and surrendering to some point, in some way, it's actually allowed us to thrive. Like the business the business has gone crazy this year. The last 6 months for us for doing that has just been insane. And I think that's because we just went, let's just get on and do the work, and let's not worry about the noise that sits around us.
That's so great. And honestly, each time you said surrender, I just felt more and more that it wasn't a word I thought about, but it's 100% what we did as well. It was just like, it is what it is. No point complaining about it. I feel very, very blessed that I've been able to continue to work and been able to help other businesses to continue to work too, rather than falling apart and falling over and shutting doors or whatever. We've been able to help them find ways to move through it and move on and prosper, not just survive. So that's been a great thing, especially for some of them, which has been the second incredibly tough year. So finding other ways for them to get income streams and things like that has been good. But that word surrender is so good, because it's been so fascinating seeing how different people coped with it in terms of their mindset, or and I was talking with one of my husband's carers the other day, who's just exhausted. She hasn't had a holiday, in a very long time, et cetera, because they'd booked a holiday to Uluru and it had to be cancelled, of course. And we were just saying that for those of us that have been lucky enough to be able to continue working, we've just pumped it, just kept going and going and going and going. So there's this divide there as well, with those that were forced into lockdown and couldn't work. So they've just relaxed and renovated or gardened or just taken time out, and we've just doubled down. And so
and I think that's so true. I hadn't actually thought about that till you just said that, but that is so true, because you and I have been running it 1,000% pretty much all year. Like we've been blessed with that and been able to do that, but we have been running at this kind of high volume, capacity all year. And so I think that's why you and I are like having a couple of weeks off.
Yes.
Getting all excited about that. Whereas you have those other people who've had the breaks, or had, and even those in lockdown, and it's been terrible for the separation, but those who have surrendered to that kind of position have taken advantage of that to connect more with their family, to exercise more, or to learn to bake, or learn to do some craft at home, or something that they can do, because they need to find ways to use their time, and they have had quite a different experience. So I hadn't thought about that till you just said that.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating, the ones that could have kept their businesses going and didn't, really just found lockdown for them. And I'm certainly not judging, because goodness me, it's tough for everyone, and we all approach it differently. But those that could have done more online and could have even just done some social media and got some blogs written and things, but just went into a bit of a pit, and when actually it's all too hard, it all feels horrible. And that's a really hard thing to have, for people to come back from and recover from. It's certainly It's been
Yeah,
interesting.
I completely agree.
So tell me about what's been one of your highlights for the year.
I think my biggest highlight is some of the projects that I've been doing. I think this year has been for me an expansion of my business into the Indigenous engagement space, and that's been a really big step for me. It's something that I've been wanting to do for years, and I just wasn't ready to kind of explore that part, but I got the opportunity to do that with a couple of really amazing organisations, and the organisations that I'm working with are actually providing space for conversation. So they're looking at the way that we approach that conversation around Indigenous engagement and how to support Indigenous businesses. And we're doing it in a really, and this is going to sound strange, but in a quiet way. We're doing it in a way that invites people in for conversation, that is inviting a discussion rather than the traditional kind of long-form training. So by having small conversations, and that for me has been such a massive highlight, to have these really powerful and empowering conversations with organisations and their executive teams around how to approach, which for some people is a very challenging topic in terms of the how do I talk and how do we engage and how do we improve and how do we support without feeling paternalistic. And so for me, the work I've done in that space has been a massive gain and a massive joy for me to do this year. And so I think that in the business side, and then professionally, and then the other side, of course, is I just love doing my bond programs. I love doing the business owner mastermind programs. That time to spend and watch businesses survive and thrive in this year has been a joy. So I think I've been really blessed with two quite different sides, and two of my highlights are other ends of the scale. We talk about extremes and polar opposites. They're different ends of the scale, and I think that's why they've been so great, because they've given me balance all year.
And
what about you?
You've been in such a unique position up there in Queensland where you haven't had those same restrictions. And I would see your posts about flying off here, or I'm flying off there, and I'm like, it's like, as I said earlier, it's like different countries, what's been going on. So
yeah,
for me,
it's really true.
There hasn't been a lot of change in the way that you've had to run things, which has been really lovely.
Yeah.
And
we're blessed for that, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas, of course, for us, there's been no in-person anything. In fact, there were a few things booked, and then, of course, boom, they were cancelled. So for me, that's fine. I really like the online stuff. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that all goes for us next year. And, you know, what that means, I had to make a really big decision the other day that I won't be going to the States in March for the social media marketing world, that I'll do the digital version instead, which is a shame. That'll be the second year in a row of that. But it just didn't feel for me personally just quite right, the right time for that big travel just yet. But for me, in terms of a win, I feel like I've had quite a number of really great wins this year, personally and professionally. And one of them, and professionally, I would say, is to do with my team. Just having a really cohesive team, really good communication, where people are taking responsibility for their own projects. That all feels really, really good. And I feel we're coming up to the end of the year now so that everyone can take a break, and it doesn't feel like it's a crazy, crazy scramble, to get things done. And in fact, I'm definitely not feeling like I'm even going to need to step in and do a little bits of work. I'm like, no, Kylie. And I'm really excited. I'm repainting my whole office. I'm, sanding the outside, all sorts of things going on. So that means I can't even work. I can't even just pop in and do little bits, which I think is going to be really, really a wonderful thing, because, I think particularly for those of us that work online, even just giving our eyes a rest from the screen is a really important break for that. So yeah, that's a really big one for me.
You've had an amazing, I want to highlight your amazing award that you got for your community award that you had, and the recognition that you got from the Bangalore community. I think for those who don't know, Kylie was nominated and received an amazing local community award, which was incredible. And so that must be such a beautiful highlight for you this year, to be recognised by, and not even realise you're being recognised in the community, and being able to showcase the incredible work that you've been doing.
Actually, if I'm to be honest, no one in the community knows about it. So it's actually an Australian award called LG.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's LG Local Legends. So the white goods and electronics and all that brand LG, it's their award. And so I have done many, many interviews on different radio stations, and I'm someone for a podcast and a YouTube channel and a TV interview and all sorts of things around it. And then I keep getting messages from people going locally saying, I never knew you won that award. I just saw you on this.
Kylie.
Or I saw you on that. So I have very quiet about it, but
that's something you should be shouting out. Everybody needs to know that you did, because maybe that was my mistake because of the local legends, but the fact that the work that you're doing and recognised on that scale is so huge, and that's something you should be proud of. That's something that I'm proud to know you, to have somebody who has that level of engagement and that passion and that purpose in the community, and it's so beautiful, and you should be celebrating that, and you should see that as one of your massive highlights for the year, I think.
Thank you, Jenny. It's a funny thing though, isn't it, awards? I've never been super comfortable with it. And particularly because of, the work that I do with starting up this organization and, and what we do with it, it was never about any kind of recognition. And one of the things that has been really important to me with the way that we've run it is that nobody ever knows who's receiving the support, because I think it's so important that it's so anonymous. Yet then suddenly there's this award and I'm like, oh, awkward, because, it's kind of just in the background there. So, yeah, it has been interesting the way that I have approached it. And my husband has won a bunch of awards in recent years for similar kind of things. He does a humongous amount of community work, and he's the opposite to me. He's like, yes, go me. And he laminates his certificates and he's like got them all over the wall in the garage. And he's like, yeah, me. And I'm just like, oh, head down. Oh. So yeah, it has been interesting.
And that's a really interesting piece. I'm gonna add something for you, and I know I'm interrupting you, but I really think it's important that it's an opportunity for you to, when we celebrate awards like that, is actually your role modeling for others what we want to see in the world. And if we don't tell people about the things that we do and the work that we do, it's not from an egotistical kind of look at me way, but if we don't share those awards and share those wins, then we can't role model for other people what we want to see in the world. So I think we changed the way that we consider awards. It's not just about the showcase and the recognition. It's actually about giving people an opportunity to see what's possible and what can happen if we all come together and if we lean in and live with purpose. And to me, that's what I see when I see you. And that's why we want to role model and tell the world that it happened, so they go, oh, tell me more about that.
Jenny, thank you for saying that, because you absolutely did right. And one of the things I've really appreciated about the interviews and things has been being able to tell people how I've done it and how simple the model is for them to be able to do it too in their various communities. Yep. And a couple of people have been in touch and said, I need to know more. I want to set this up in my local community. So that's felt really, really good. And as I've mentioned to you before, we don't actually need any money to run it. It's all done on donations. So, it is literally super doable no matter what community you're in. So yeah, that has been a really good thing about being able to do it. So perhaps I will put some social posts out there this week. And
so what else have you learned this year?
I have learned that I want to talk around my daughter's experience, because it's been a really interesting one. So she's been doing year 12. She's, with the HSC and the ending of school, they have been constantly moving the dates of those exams in New South Wales. They have been cancelling the formal, then, it's back on, and now they've cancelled graduation and it's back on. And we've done that exactly what you said. We just surrendered and we were like, oh my goodness, this is a bit of a pain, but we just kept going with it. But then, my goodness, I really felt for her when it was all over. She just suddenly realised, actually, I think I feel quite stressed. I'm not really sure what I'm meant to be doing. I don't start uni for a month, and I'm just kind of it's been so much for so long. Maybe that happens to all years when they finish up and they're like, whoa, but I think it's been really an interesting end to schooling. The last 2 years have definitely not been easy, and she's super chilled. She's really coped well with it all, but I think it's been big. And so one of my big lessons has been that it's okay to sit there and feel a little bit disappointed. That doesn't mean I'm going to need to wallow in it. That doesn't mean I can change anything, but definitely to at least acknowledge that I feel disappointed for how it's ended.
Yeah. That's such a powerful one, though, just to be okay with however you're feeling. So whether it's disappointment, whether it's, you know, a little bit of, you know, overwhelm, whether it's you're feeling like you don't have the resilience or whatever it is, that's actually such a powerful thing to do, just to sit and have that kind of self-reflection piece and be okay in that space. Because that actually shows a real strength of character when you're able to do that and give yourself permission to do that. And I think sometimes we forget that it's okay. And that, you know, there's two faces, those very simple words, is it's okay.
I agree. And, you know, one thing I think that's a theme and for so many this year has just been loss of control or lack of control.
Yeah.
We have no, for example, I cannot, it's not a money issue. It's not any issue other than I cannot fly to New Zealand this weekend for my mum's birthday because I am not allowed to. I have no control over that. We couldn't, you know, there's so much about our own lives at the moment that we do not have the control over. And I think for some people that is an incredibly hard pill to swallow. And, you know, and it just keeps coming at us a lot more and more.
I had that conversation this week in some of the planning workshops that I've been in this week, and the conversations have very much been around, but I want to do all these things, and recognising that we can't do everything. We can't actually have control over everything. There's only so much that we can control, and then there's that, you know, the locus of control, sphere of control map that you can see, which is, you know, the amount that you control is quite small compared to what you can influence, and recognising that and being okay in that space and how small the amount of things you can control in your life compared to what you actually can, what actually comes at you or what flows through you is massive. And so I think that's such a beautiful point to leave people on, particularly as we move into this break period and people get reflection time, is to think about what are those things that you can control and you can do and the actions you can take versus the stuff that you need, which is around influence. And it's not necessarily going to give you the outcome that you want, but it will help you actually feel like you've got you're pushing the, you know, the cart in the right direction. What the outcome is, you can't control, but we can influence it.
It's an important one, really, isn't it? Is you're right about what can we control, what can't we control. So we can control that I'm going to declutter my house. I'm going to paint my office. I'm going to take time out. I'm going to swim at the lake, those kind of things. But I can't do other things, and I'm not going to focus on that, just what I can control. So what about you for your break? What do you get able to control that you're going to do?
For me, we're doing a big relaunch of our programs next year. So I'm actually really going to focus and take time when I don't have client work to deliver, and we're really just focusing on the business. So working on the business is actually about getting all our ducks in a row. So making sure we have our landing pages and all our bits and pieces in place, because we know once they're done, then we can actually put it to the market. Then it's actually out of our control about what happens after that. You know, I can do ads, you can boost the post, whatever, but if the message is on point and what we're doing is launched properly, once I have that done, then I can sit back and actually watch the impact, hopefully have the impact that we want in the world. And so I think for me, it's not working per se, but I love tinkering with websites. I love tinkering with landing pages. It's my happy place. So I think I'll do a lot of that piece just to give me, so I start the year calmly. But actually for me, we've got probably 3 weeks off where we're just my partner and I are just going to hang out and relax and reconnect and play around the house and do a bit of reorganizing and just things to help us reset. I think it's about resetting for me this break.
Oh, reset's a great word. Look, we've got a few good ones. We've got surrender.
Surrender and reset.
Reset. I love it. That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, Jenni, I'm so excited that you're having a break. I'm so excited I'm having a break. And, we can't be flying overseas or doing anything like that. So for me, my theme for the holidays is low and slow.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, low and slow is where I'm headed. So I can't wait to see you back here. So we're going to be meeting back on the 14th of January. So 2 days after our joint masterclass on goal setting and strategy for 2022. So if anyone wants to join us for that, send us a message. And we'll be back here, and we're going to be talking about our topic of the day will be what is happening that you need to focus on for 2022 in terms of your digital marketing. And Jenni might be able to talk a little bit about business for 2022. So it's a very exciting topic because we know that each year there's new changes.
And I think you bring to us in the new year the trends that we need to focus on, and those activities that we need to focus on in January is such an important move, because we've talked over the last couple of months about how things keep changing with Meta and with the way Facebook is managing accounts and Instagram managing accounts. It's all changing. So by starting in January by saying, okay, these are the key areas and the trends of this year that will really help thrive your business, and particularly in the marketing and digital marketing space, I think is a really great way to start the year. And I'm so excited to have that conversation.
Me too. So I'll see you back here in 3 weeks' time. And
can't wait. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all year.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy festive season to you, Jenni. Happy festive season to all of you listening. Thank you for being with us, and have a great break, a great reset.
Have a great reset, and enjoy, and just surrender to the environment that you're in, and have fun, be safe. And yeah, we can't wait to see you next year.
Be kind. That's my last 2 words. Be kind.
I love that. Yeah.
All right. I look forward to seeing you.
Have an amazing break.